You can open this jar in a second even without a professional bottle opener. You only need a wooden or bamboo stick to easily open a specialized bottle cap. In our daily lives, canned goods are incredibly convenient. Whether it's fish, meat, fruit, vegetables, or various spices, they can all be conveniently sealed in jars to keep them fresh for longer. However, canned food has become a big problem for many people, especially those who are not strong or dexterous enough to open cans. So today, I will share a very useful little trick to help you no longer worry about opening cans. Opening a can is no longer a difficulty, and it will open easily in a few seconds. Method 1. Gently tap the bottom of the can. For bottles with relatively small caps and bodies that are just big enough to hold, you can gently tap the bottom of the bottle using inertia. Tap the bottom of the bottle gently with your palm. Tap 5 to 10 times. Then open the bottle. You'll see the bottle cap opens very easily. Do you know the principle behind this? When tapping the bottom of the bottle with your palm, just tap hard enough to break the vacuum seal on top of the cap, and it will open easily. Note: don't tap too hard as it will hurt your hand and break the bottle. Method 2. Increase friction. Prepare a piece of plastic wrap and fold it just enough to cover the jar lid. Then put the lid back on and twist it tightly to open. You will find the lid opens very easily. The principle of this method is to use plastic wrap to increase friction between your hand and the jar lid, preventing it from slipping. We can also use a towel, rubber gloves, rubber bands, and other items to increase friction between your hand and the jar lid to open it this way. However, the disadvantage of this method is that it is not suitable for girls with weak physical strength. For those with weak strength, you can refer to the following methods. Method 3. Based on the principle of thermal expansion. If you really can't open the jar, use the thermal expansion and cold shrinkage method. Prepare a deep bowl or plate. Place the jar on the plate. Then pour boiling water in. Be careful to pour just enough water to cover the lid. Pour slowly to avoid water overflowing the lid. Then, let it sit for about a minute, and unscrewing the lid will become very easy. After soaking for the sufficient time, take the jar out and wipe it clean with a paper towel. Wipe away any water residue on the jar to prevent water droplets from getting into the jar when opening the lid and to prevent it from slipping when unscrewing. Then, you can unscrew it directly by hand. The lid will also come off easily. The principle here is very simple. When we pour just enough hot water into the jar lid, it will cause the lid to expand. Because we only pour hot water up to the lid of the jar, the glass at the mouth of the jar is not affected by the hot water. Therefore, the lid can be removed quickly. Using this principle, you can use a hairdryer or lighter to heat the jar lid, then open the jar while the lid is still hot. Method 4. Using a pointed object to open the lid. We see that this jar lid is of a suitable size, and it fits comfortably in the palm of your hand, and even if you twist it with your hand, you still can't open the lid. Although there are many contact points, they are too slippery and tight to open. Even wearing gloves to twist, you'll find it has no effect on the lid. Here, there is a lot of friction between your hand and the lid, but the lid is too tight or the twisting force is too weak, so it still won't open. Because the lid is indented inwards, we just need to find a slightly pointed object, align it with the dented part of the lid, and tilt it slightly outwards, and you will hear a pop sound. When you hear the sound of air leakage, gently twist the lid and it will open easily. The whole process takes less than 10 seconds, very quick and without any problems. You can easily open the jar lid using this method. The principle of opening the jar lid is also very simple. When the container is sealed, it means the air pressure inside the container is lower than the air pressure outside. When we gently pry open the lid with scissors, air will quickly enter the container. At this point, the air pressure inside and outside the container are equal, so the lid can be easily opened by tightening it. Method 5. Opening the cap with a rubber band. There's a very simple trick that many people overlook: opening bottle or jar caps with a rubber band. When you encounter caps that are screwed on too tightly, or your hands are slippery or wet and difficult to open, simply take a rubber band and wrap it around the cap. After wrapping the rubber band around the cap, twist it as usual. You'll find opening the cap much easier. The reason is that the rubber band creates extra friction between your hand and the cap, helping your hand grip better and preventing slippage when twisting. This tip is especially useful when your hands are wet, greasy, or with bottles and jars that have slippery surfaces like glass or hard plastic. Just a small rubber band can solve the problem very quickly. If the cap is too tight, you can wrap 2 to 3 more rubber bands around it to increase grip, or using both hands to twist will be more effective. A simple yet incredibly convenient trick that you can apply at home without any complicated tools. Method 6. Use a rope and a bamboo or wooden stick to open the jar. Sometimes you try to open a plastic jar with your hands, but because your hands are slippery or the jar is too tight, it can be difficult to open. In this case, you can use a bamboo or wooden stick to open it quickly. However, you will also need an auxiliary tool, which is a rope. You can get one from a clothing or jewelry box. Next, tie the rope. Tie the first knot. Then tie a second knot. Pull both sides to tighten the knot. Then, place it on the jar lid, on this side. Now you will see a gap. Insert the bamboo stick into that gap. After inserting the bamboo stick, the rope will be relatively loose. Then, twist the rope a few more times to tighten it completely. If it is still loose, tighten it again with another loop. The principle behind this method of opening the lid is equivalent to a lever for quick opening. Just apply counterclockwise force, and it will open very easily, right? It opens quickly in a second, and this method is very simple and easy. Even girls with weak strength can use this method to open water bottles and canned goods at home. In fact, these jars are sterilized at high temperatures, then sealed using the principle of thermal expansion and contraction. The temperature inside the jar is higher than the ambient temperature, causing the gas inside to expand. When the jar cools, the gas inside contracts due to the cold, creating a vacuum, so the lid and can are tightly sealed and extremely airtight. To open the jar lid, this vacuum must be broken. I've shared ways to easily open jars by gently tapping the bottom of the jar, increasing friction, using a sharp object, relying on the principle of thermal expansion, or using a lever made from a bamboo stick. Have you memorized the methods? Method 7. Next is another very simple lid opening trick, using double-sided tape. This trick is especially useful for slippery, hard-to-grip lids or when you don't have enough strength to twist them. First, take out a roll of double-sided tape and cut a section long enough to wrap around the lid. You can stick this tape directly onto the lid's surface, ensuring the part that contacts your hand has better grip. After sticking it on, proceed to twist the lid as usual. At this point, you will clearly feel that your hand no longer slips, and opening the lid becomes easier. The principle of this trick is quite simple. Double-sided tape creates higher friction than the smooth surface of the lid, helping your hand grip better when twisting. If the lid is too tight, you can add another layer of tape to increase effectiveness. A very quick and easy method that almost every household has readily available materials to use. The video ends here. If you have another way to open the jar easily or any suggestions, please leave a comment below. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like. Don't forget to share it with your family and friends. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Goodbye. See you in the next video.